IEP.
Ag and
Does it matter which one role?
For presentation?
Inflation.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
But what-
that was already.
That's on that cam, yeah.
You know,
I feel like that's what the federal law would, but
I
why?
think, but
I don't know.
but it's sort of feel like, really, if that's like if that's a loophole, well then, like, let's.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we do that? Why do we feel law that says?
Right.
Why wouldn't that just be what we do?
Is there a way to get rid of those 3 users on the right or no? If not, it's okay.
Be used.
Whatever you're ready.
Well, look, thanks so much for coming to the October Post-Secondary Inclusion Education Advisory Council meeting. So I'd like to remind everybody, this is, we're live streaming today's event, so just so let you know. And before I begin, I'd like to recognize two new members of the council. Ebony Haven, she's interim director of the Louisiana Developmental Disability Council, so she'll be replacing Ms. Amy Daigle on the council, and then Lakeisha London is replacing Dr. Carolyn Jurich. So yeah, welcome to the council. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So Kim, could you call the roll, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner Reed,
Here.
Ms. Bayham, or Ms. Rylands in her place. Great. Ms. Colazolo as proxy for Dr. Beckers, Dr. Bro.
Here.
Dr. Louvier in proxy of Dr. Bureau.
Here.
Ms. Haven.
Here.
Mr. Dillon. Ms. London.
Here.
Ms. Grenier. Ms. Callie is proxy for Dr. O'Rourke.
Collie, yes, thank you.
Okay, I apologize. Mr. Manella. Mr. Alan Vitale is proxy for President Shields.
I am.
Dr. Smith. And Sydney Bayville as proxy for Ms. Soden. Okay, we have a quorum.
Terrific, thanks so much.
Good morning.
Hey.
Hey, guys. Hey.
Well, first order of business, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the May 17th?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes. So our first item on the agenda today is to get an update about some of our new programs. And so Dr. Mooney is here from LSU's new program. So Dr. Mooney, please let us know about your work. Thanks so much.
Thank you for allowing us to be here. We appreciate this. Dr. Willie Louvier and Dr. Nick Fierce is along with me again. I've been instrumental in getting this program going. We are rolling as an LSU, comprehensive transition program. At this point in time, it's been a kind of a crazy 18 months, thanks to Blue Cross Blue Shield and Louisiana Foundation and legislative support of the proposal. We have 2 students at this point in time. Quite a bit has taken place since, our history probably dates back to 2019. There was discussion of such a program. I suppose COVID intervened at some point in time. Dr. Ken Denny is probably given credit for that. Should be given credit for involvement with respect to us realizing that within the state of Louisiana, within the SEC as there's the LSU conference representation, that LSU was not represented with respect to comprehensive transition programs. And so we worked through the system to be able to develop that. It was appreciated on our parts that the legislature and all of you as directors of this kind of effort have supported programming and supported our efforts to get started, as well as Blue Cross Blue Shield. Dean Mitchell of the School of College of Human Sciences and Education can be given some credit as well with respect to at the middle of the summer. Some things were happening and the LSU legal had said that we can't charge a program fee. So there was a decision that needed to be made with respect to us moving forward this year. We said, let's go. So we did. We have 2 students at this point in time. There were 3 that applied. I suppose it was known out there in some ways there was to be a program, but it wasn't highly advertised. And so there were 3 potential applicants. We are moving now with 2 students, and it's been a tremendous process of our growth. You all are familiar with the fact that it's a 2-year certificate program. It's a residential program. So our goals are to be able to be full with respect to 12 students if not potentially more at a point in time, but 12 students would be an average, an actual class that we'd like to enroll with individuals in residential housing, West Campus apartments with independent living assistance support. There's also mentor support as part of our program. We've got folks that are pursuing just providing service hours to a process, as well as folks who are paid. Across 84 hours of the academic or the actual week, there is support that's provided going into classrooms, after classrooms with respect to academic support. And then in the evening and on the weekends, we've slowly transitioned into individuals being on campus. They were going home to begin with, and now they're on campus. And the goal is to, continue that in the spring semester. And the goal is to, in the fall semester, to have them be on campus from the get-go. The credit to Dr. Louvier with respect to, integrative community studies is the kind of the program name, but community is the emphasis, and you see it there. The broader community, including you all, have been tremendous with respect to support, and the LSU community has been tremendous in terms of its support as well, all the way from, the president and LSU legal down through the provost's office, Dr. Bureau, residential life, bodies across campus, the student government. We've had tremendous involvement with respect to all. They were just on sorority and fraternity row yesterday with respect to trick or treating, so that there's just been a tremendous community. Dr. Jackie Bach could be given some credit. Kelly Weber in the bursar's office, it's been great. We've been able to get a tremendous amount of support as well from outside entities. Dr. Mary Bro is invested in this program, as are you all, with respect to it being a Louisiana entity. The Clemson Life Director, Joe Ryan, has also, provided tremendous support to the program. So it is a great community. Our goals are to be able to provide, as you see there, functional academic enrichment, and they're in coursework to that effect now. They're auditing a couple of courses, one which is an academic study skills course, and that we're working on teaching and developing workforce skills. Maybe I'll, at one point, if we can, transition to Dr. Louvier to be able to talk about some of the things that are going on there. But there's also social and real world engagement that we're attempting to promote as part of this program. Again, it's 2 years, 4 semesters. We've got plans, goals with respect to summer work and trying to develop the broader community of post-secondary transition programs. But one of the comments of Mom with respect to Cole there, as you see, as much as I've strived to give Cole the best life possible, this experience that y'all are providing through ICS is a game changer. It's neat to be able to hear that, and it's neat that our community has come together. The graduate assistant that's part of it, the independent living assistant, he's actually in our dual degree teacher preparation program, so that the LSU college in which we're housed is a great place for this to flourish as well. And as I said before, we've got mentors in any number of different aspects, and we will continue to grow that group of folks who are supporting our candidates as they support their, understanding of what it means to be a student with a disability on a university campus and in a broader community, because we've got goals with respect to building out into the community in years 3 and 4 and beyond. So, Dr. Louvier, other things that you'd like to say?
Absolutely. I have been blessed with the most wonderful structure and support through that team. They are our boots on the ground. They help these 2 guys, they help them navigate the campus of LSU. If you've ever been on our campus, you kind of look around and the buildings look a lot alike. And now they're working in 8 weeks, not going on 9 weeks. These students came onto the campus, never having done laundry, never having ordered their own food. Just many first things took place. And the team, we are hands-on, we're right there, we're guiding them. Now They can tell you where the purple bus brings them, where the gold bus brings them, where the North Campus Circulator brings them. They're better at the bus system than I am. I'm looking on the schedule and they're like, Dr. Willie, we need to be on the gold bus to go to the ice cream store. I'm like, okay. So we get on the gold bus and we have to take the long way around because they do love to take the transportation. But there's such an air of confidence that wasn't there before. And I get to be a part of that every day. So with that being said, we could not do this without the team, and everyone at at LSU they've been supportive. If I call and there's a need, they help me find the way. If they don't have the answer, they help me figure it out. And it has just been a blessing for the students to be able to grow in this capacity. And I can't wait to see us at 14 strong in the fall.
And to the LSU's, college that we're a part of, Nick, who's over there, is in kinesiology, and it's our emphasis from the get-go has been about whole person, and so there's nutrition and exercise, all those kinds of things that the candidates are finding themselves involved with, and that we are looking to do, as a research intensive university, being able to do research, be able to provide service, contribute to the development of the programming as you all are directing that development of programming as well. So there's good things to come.
Questions for Dr. Mooney and his team?
I have just a comment, not necessarily directly to you guys, but I think as a whole. First off, I'm glad the LSU has a program. It's really exciting. But in regards to the 2-year program, I have concerns for any of the programs that are not the same as what any other student would go to the university. So for instance, a student without a disability will go to LSU, you expect for 4 years. So why wouldn't we expect a student with a disability to need less time? And I just know personally, my son's a senior at the UL Life program, and he wouldn't be anywhere for 2 years. He just wasn't ready to exit. I feel like he's grown so much by getting those extra 2 years. So that's something that's not necessarily just to you guys, but are you guys considering?
Yes.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I love it. Absolutely. I think during my interview, I sat down and I looked at Dr. Mooney and I said, first question, why 2 years? 2 years, we're just still trying to figure out getting up on time and getting to class and without a disability. So with that being said, absolutely. Year 3 and year 4, I came in prepared to my interview, having researched different programs, and I have a notebook that's about this big of what that is going to look at. Like Dr. Mary Bro and I work on phone conversations weekly, designing her year 3 and 4 as well. And we're working on that vision moving forward. So absolutely, that is in motion. These boys will transition into year 3 when that time is appropriate. Absolutely.
And then my second question is specifically to you. What is the cost of tuition or fees for students to be in the program?
It's a great question. There was a program fee that we included. Initially, as the program was put together, it was going to be tuition and fees. And then, the traditional fee costs. Those fees exist because that's what a traditional student takes. We realized that it's at some point along the way that, if tuition was paid by a student, it would go into the general fund. We wouldn't have funds to be able to operate the program. So we also found out that LSU's system doesn't allow a certificate program to be able to charge tuition. So our program fee initially was $12,000 a semester. What we found out,
Is that the tuition that a typical student pays to go to?
it's a little bit more than that. Because the costs with respect to the support that are needed, the mentors and the instructional support, but it's somewhat close. What we found out in the middle of summer was the legislature needs to approve a program fee. So we have not assessed the program fee at this point in time because we're not allowed to. LSU Legal indicated that we couldn't. So, Blue Cross Blue Shield and legislative funds are being utilized to be able to present. The candidates and their families are paying residence fees. They're paying the traditional fees that are paid, and they're also paying meal plans, but that's what their costs are in this. We could call this a pilot year. So in the spring semester and the legislative session, their LSU will make a request to be able to have a program fee approved. And then, I mean, there is, with the CTP status, which we do have, there will be access to vocational rehabilitation support that way. We've had discussions with them already, so that's kind of the plan. The program fees that we set up to assess are comparable to SEC programs and Clemson Life's programs. So yes, it is expensive, but there's a need for us to be able to charge that to run the program with respect to the personal support that's needed to be able to have a workforce development and an instructional and a social emotional support program.
Okay, so I don't, what is the cost?
Cost right now is for the two candidates is residents, whatever the residence fee, I think it's $4,500 for the school year, and then the meal plan, which I forget what that cost is. Essentially now, that's what the cost is. That's why we're piloting this.
So they're not
program.
paying tuition and fees like other students are?
No tuition, fees for
The
living.
traditional
food,
instructional fees.
And
Yeah, whatever, there's a campus, there's a series of campus fees. I think it ends up being $600-700 a semester. It's on the website that those fees are being paid. And then the program's being piloted with legislative support is those funds in addition to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana Foundation.
So why can't they pay the tuition? I mean, like my son goes to UL and we pay the tuition that UL charges. I have two sons at UL.
Yes.
One in the life program, one is a traditional student, and they pay the exact same thing, the tuition and fees. And that's it. So why can't that be done?
Two reasons. The LSU legal has said that the legislature has said that you cannot charge a program fee. And the second thing is that certificate programs at LSU in the LSU system, to my understanding, cannot charge tuition. So it's an LSU system thing, apparently.
so your plan is to come to the legislature and ask for a specific program fee for this program, a
Exactly.
bundled fee for
Yes.
this program,
Yes.
in this session.
In the next session, yes.
So what do you expect to be the cost?
Residents,
It's
I guess I should look at $4,500 plus the meal plan plus $12,000 a semester is what we're proposing at this point in time. So
So $12,000, is that comparable to what the tuition is for a traditional
it's a
student
little
to
bit
attend?
more, to the best of my understanding, yeah.
12,000.
How many hours is that, Dr. Moody?
12 hours.
12 hours.
12 hours a semester. And 4 hours in the academic year.
And then do you anticipate the year 3, 4 being a different fee?
No, the year 3 and 4, we don't expect for there to be a difference in the fee because the students will still take that same number of hours. We'll work in you have to prepare for that workforce initiative. We're working on skills based off of interviews, communication skills now, and we will traditionally build up until they will have their first workforce initiative in the spring of this year, and then they will transition into a workforce focus during year 3.
You can think of in the simplest of terms, it's on campus. The first 2 years is on campus and on campus work. In years 3 and 4, I mean, we're following in some ways the lead of Clemson's program as they evolved over time. They're in their 15th year now. They evolved to off-campus work. So that's what the support will be for, rather than, being in West Campus apartments, for example. It'll be off-campus housing and support, and then an off-campus job so that we develop relationships, with the broader community to be able to have them continue to develop their skills and work.
And still being
within the
able to utilize campus transportation because we have off-campus buses. So they have to be able to be transported.
What's what's the outreach plan to get to 12 to 14 students in the fall? How are you communicating to those who might?
We've,
be able to communicate?
I mean, the website is active. We're kind of in, I shouldn't say kind of, we are in the community right now with respect to parents know about us. We've also, our families, those of us involved in the program are involved in Miracle League or are involved in the Team of Dreams Gonzalez. Our candidates are actually, they play baseball in Gonzalez now. We missed the deadline to start Miracle League, so families know about us. We've reached out to school districts, not everybody at this point in time, but that's coming. Ascension Parish, for example, is highly invested in the program, and we've got applicants already with respect to that. So we're more than halfway there to the possible 10 students at this point in time already. So there will be continued outreach to high schools and to, community organizations. We did in the spring semester, technically before we started, we presented the Capital Area Autism Network. So when those opportunities present themselves, we will, be at those kinds of presentations. So it's Facebook. I mean, if you would follow, there's Facebook posts every day, thanks to Dr. Willie. So
That's what you anticipate. So each year bringing in 10 new students and then
well,
10
12 if
to
we can get
12.
there.
So,
Yeah.
so you'll end up
Yeah.
with 40, somewhere between 40 and 60.
Yep.
Last week I did a school visit that had 5 potential students and parents in it. So really word of mouth is what has been filling us. And it's great because anytime when I post on social media, I'll have 3 or 4 messages on email, I'll have phone calls. So there's a need. It's getting the word out and making sure people know that that access is now there for students who have been quiet for far too long. And that we're here to answer the call.
And we work closely with vocational rehabilitation services as well to
Yes.
start plans if, programs if they're not in existence, so that applicants have those kinds of resources accessible to them immediately. Because as we had interactions with those folks, it can take a few months to be able to get things rolling, but so we're developing our own network. And to that point, as we presented that last week, they talked about 60 potential students that they've got in the New Orleans area that are, potential targets for this program. So, and as I say, this program, I hope we all are working towards, it's community with respect to all of our programs as well. We don't want to compete with the Bridges program. We want to work with them in terms of, as well as LSU's Alex's program. So, it's our goal at this point in time to develop our network and system and programming across the state so that, families and all of us, individuals with disabilities, are served.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question? You said you have to go to the legislature. You going to the legislature to ask for permission to be able to charge that fee? It's not a funding ask, it's just an ask to allow you to be able to charge, correct?
My understanding, it's what I'm sharing, so I apologize if it's a misunderstanding, but that there was agreements in recent years with respect to how funding is offered between legislature and LSU, and more funds were be able to provide it, and now there is a need to be able to get any kind of a fee, whether it would be, if we would ask, for example, in our dual degree program to be able to support teachers in residency settings, we would need to get legislative approval to be able to do that fee. So it's any entity needs to get legislative approval.
That's right. So the law requires a 2/3 vote of the legislature to approve any tuition or fee. The authority for us to do that sunset multiple years ago. The legislature was focused on affordability and giving additional funding to higher education each year. And so if any institution wants to charge a fee for an increased fee or tuition for anything, medical school, regular campus, anything in higher education that's not a student user fee, the legislature has to vote by 2/3 to allow that.
So like you said that, is it just the LSU Baton Rouge campus that won't allow you to charge the regular tuition and fees? Because like the LSU A campus, I think they charge their regular tuition and fee. Is that correct? Is that what's due?
She's proxy.
She's proxy.
Proxy for Brittany.
Oh, okay, so you're not there at LSU A?
She's at Nichols.
Oh, okay. So, but I
But
thought that that's
we'll
what
get that
they,
information.
Yeah, I'd have to-
We'll get that information.
Yeah.
So if legal is advising that, then we need to talk to them to make sure we're clear. So let's do that, and that way we're clear on that.
Yeah, and that question with respect to the tuition. My recollection is that wasn't illegal. That was, I believe it was within our College of Education and working with the bursar's office, but I could, yeah,
Okay.
clarification.
Let's just get clarification on that.
Any other questions? for Dr.
Very excited. Very excited to see expanded programs. Parents shaking their heads over here. Yes, that's the whole purpose of why we came to be, right? Yes, awesome.
And for the CTP application, I've been working with them just kind of as a support. They applied and that decision came back rather quickly.
So they already have,
They have CTP status, yes.
wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. So does that indicate that the process is now snappier, or you
Or
just,
improved? Or
knew exactly the magic words to say? Or
It seems to be
better be
snappier.
lucky than good, or is it like?
Snappy. And also just as a side note, Nichols is in the process of applying for a 4-year program because we see, we're trying to get off-campus internships. We're actually starting them. So for our students to be able to engage in all of the social and everything that revolves around that and the transportation to and from internships off campus, it gets to be really taxing. So, and some students take a little bit longer, to get acclimated to the campus. So that is something that we're looking into right now. I did contact the Dallas office and because I said, what do we do? Is it an amendment? How do we go about that process? Because we're approved for a 2-year program. And their response was submit your original application along with the changes, but it is a total resubmission.
Oh, wow.
So that's just a side note for any programs that are looking to change anything within their CTP. It does have to go through that process again.
So it's literally a start from scratch. Well,
But take what we have, they're not gonna build on it.
well, I mean, for the approval
And we're
process,
gonna
it's not.
keep our 2-year program like Southeastern has and like UL has, and just add the other option of a 4-year plan. And then when the students come in, they can make the decision if they want to continue with the 2-year program or they want to do a 4-year program. Because families that are paying out of pocket, it does get to be very expensive. And, for the students that are receiving service funds from other places, we don't want to be too taxing on that either. So they'll be able to choose.
All right, so our next item is a review of what happened at the last legislative session. So very happy to be able to tell you that we were appropriated $1 million to fund the work moving forward. So but yeah.
Hard work.
There's lots of
Yes.
strong and powerful conversations along the way too.
Shout out to the advocates who are making it happen, for
Exactly.
sure. Yes, well done.
Yeah, it was really. So really want the next thing really to do is to talk about if with the funding that we have, what are our plans in this coming year to support the work in meaningful ways. So let me give you a quick reminder about what we did last year. So last year, we had two rounds of funding. We first of all set out to ask for which programs, just Dr. Mooney's program, what new programs would like to begin a brand new program, and those were supported by $80,000. And then we were also asked for applications from existing programs, and those were supported at $50,000. So we made several awards. We made 4 awards for brand new programs. Those, of course, were LSU Baton Rouge's program that we've heard from this morning, LSU A's program. There was in that sort of, they were already not yet, they sort of already begun, but the way that we understood new was that they were, I think we're within the first 2 years. That was the way we defined new. And then a brand new program at SUNO and a brand new program at ULM. And we're excited to hear from both of them in future meetings. Dr. Soden from LSUA was originally going to present today, but was not able to be with us today. And then, of course, as well as that, we gave awards to BRCC, to BIPC, to Nichols, to Southeastern, and to ULL. All of those existing programs, and we're very happy to support that work. So, as well as that, we also went out to ask. We did a large survey of all the institutions in the state to ask. Well, first of all, do you have something already in existence? Because that was already really trying to sort of clarify the picture. But as well as that, we asked of schools that did not have an existing program, do you have an interest in creating a program? We heard back from multiple institutions, and there were 11 institutions that we heard from who expressed an interest in initiating a new program, who last year did not put application. So that's kind of the state of affairs. Altogether, the funds that we have in place. So last year we awarded right at $670,000. By the time we provided the support to those new institutions and the existing institutions, and then of course also the support that we gave to the pilot. So that leaves $1,330,000 that we have in the bank, so to say. In the bank, so to say. So moving forward, our suggestion, the proposed process moving forward is to really try to support those new programs, to try to encourage institutions to step forward and create greater capacity across the state. And so the suggestion is twofold. For just as we did last year, to offer those $80,000 matched grants for institutions that would like to begin a brand new program, but also we heard back from several of the institutions that expressed interest last year that they need a leg up to be able to get themselves into a place where they can begin to put that new program in place. So I think you fully affirm this. It's not a snap your fingers kind of turnkey kind of process. That there's work to do to understand, well, what would this look like? How would it be? And then, of course, we're also asking for that match, and there's work to do to put that together. So also suggesting creating planning grants for any of these institutions that have expressed interest to apply for those planning grants, to then hopefully be in a position to be able to apply for support for a new program going forward. So let me put that out there, and then see if there are thoughts, comments, suggestions.
For LA Pi, we have had 2 virtual discussions on this topic. And the motion from LA Pi for consideration was up to $100,000 for new programs and up to $75,000 for existing programs, and also to be able to utilize those funds for up to 2 years, so that it's not every year coming back to the table not knowing. It's to have some consistency. So that was the recommendation. We had not thought about the planning grants. But I like that idea.
So Mary, since we did, what did you say, Tristan, 4 new and 5 existing programs, are you saying that LaPi would like those programs to be able to get 2-year, or new applicants to be able to get a 2-year grant? Or did you guys talk about the existing programs versus the potentially new program?
The existing programs to be able to utilize the funds over 2 years. And then new programs, we had some discussions about new programs having obtained that CTP status before we invest the $80,000 or $100,000, because that was a question. I knew that LSUA had already been approved for CTP. I knew that LSU had been awarded their CTP. I wasn't sure about SUNO ULM. I have been in communications with them. I know they are applying, but I don't know exactly where they are. So there was some voicing of concern of allocating very large amounts to institutions that don't already have the CTP status. So I like the planning grant portion. If we would have thought about that, you know, that would be a great place for institutions that are wanting to do this to have the availability of funds to apply for the CTP. That we know there's examples out there. There's assistance through LA Pi for consulting. And then, you know, with the speed that it went through for LSU, it seems that, you know, that would be a reasonable ask.
Yeah, I think it helped us that one of our graduate assistants at the time, she's now, well, has a degree that she was working with or had worked with the Southeastern program to be able to understand that process. We also solicited and received the input of Dr. Bro. So yeah, we have that. Plus there is a decent template to be able to write to. So yeah, the $20,000 and then, kind of some piece aspect of that includes the CTP that LaPi could facilitate. And I guess now that we've gone through that process, we can gladly facilitate as well. So yeah, that could be, as Mary says, it's a great idea that we didn't discuss at that time.
Because it wasn't, that was part of what we did last year. And you remember, because we sort of had this conversation last year by making sure that when we gave the money, that we had commitment from the institutions that they would be applying, that they would apply for the CTP. So we have assurance from those institutions that that's going to happen. Of course, as you say, sometimes it takes time and they have to put themselves in the right position to do it. We recognize all this, but you're saying that the $20,000 part of the deliverable of that, if you will, can be that you get that you apply, and then that way in the future when we're handing out the establishment grants, having the CTP in place could be part of the requirement over 2 years.
Right, because having the CTP status is what gives the individuals the opportunity to apply for monies through, Louisiana Rehab and to be able to tie into that Pell Grant. So there's only pluses for the institutions to apply and get the CTP. And then it puts more skin in the game too. You have your plan. So just to be cautious, we don't think anybody would not go through, but it is a possibility, faculty changes, goals change. And for so many programs that we have now that we know we're doing the work. So the more funds that we can utilize, we were able to hire a director. Sydney Mobile is now our director. So taking our programs, to the next level.
So maybe we bifurcate the conversation. Let's talk about the planning grants and see if there's any other conversation about what a planning grant would look like, any concern, any support. And then we can move that one out and then talk about the other one. So on the planning grant, any no pushback, everybody? So you have, is this right, Tristan, 11 institutions that surveyed that said they were interested but didn't apply.
That's right. And of course, at least
others could be.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So you think the planning grant, we like the planning grant idea? Okay.
So we would scope the planning grant that is written. So now asking campuses to say, well, how would you utilize these $20,000 to position yourself to apply for a CTP?
To some degree with the template of the CTP, maybe you know, that order and questions related to each one of those could be answered as part of your, how you earn that, you know, how you meet your requirements with respect to that, to be able to write your application in the process and serve. I mean, even data collection with respect to this committee could be, data could be collected from those, you know, planning grant summaries.
We have consensus on the planning grants. Okay, good.
So then to the other, so if now planning grants are to put a program that doesn't exist into a place where they have a CTP, then probably this year, there are no programs out there that could just apply. I mean, there are no programs sitting out there that have a CTP that don't have a program, right?
Do you have to have a program to get CTP?
No, but if,
Chicken and egg? No.
but if we're now, I mean, I'm just hearing from the company, if what we're now saying is moving forward, that to apply for the new establishment grants, you need to have a CTP in place. We don't have to do that this year. We could say this year, well, that would happen next year, or we could say this year, no, moving forward, establishment grants from here on out, you need to have the CTP in place. So if you don't have a CTP, apply for a planning grant, and then next year, you would be able to apply for an establishment grant. Is that's what
I like that.
Well, you could do two different things. Let me just throw one other idea out. So I think, Mary, you mentioned a multi-year grant process. So LSU was able to establish a program, get the CTP with support, and get 2 students in, right? Without having to wait another year. So the other potential plan could be that we do what we've done in the past, which is to say you have a 1-year grant. If you get to the CTP successfully, it can turn into a 2-year grant. So that way we'd have money spent, movement happening, students being served. So that's just another option. I welcome other feedback, but I think LSU is an example now of a campus that was able to both start a program, serve students, and get the CTP all in the same year because of your support.
Yes.
Yeah, there's truth to that, I suppose. I mean, the little counter to that was the idea's been sitting on the table since 2019 and multiple discussions took place. But yeah, it's doable.
Yeah, but we may have that happening in other campuses too.
Yeah, exactly. Conversation's already
And we
taken.
could possibly keep that in mind and kind of keep those monies in reserve. So that once it is established, then they could draw down some additional monies to be able to not have to come back. But if you're a CTP and you're ready to go, then you would be able to draw down. So initial funding would be for the planning. And then once X, Y, and Z are accomplished, then that will open the door to additional funds that they know are coming. And they would have to show that match.
Yes,
Right.
but that is a big difference here. At least we don't, I think the way that I'm understanding, for the planning grants, we're not anticipating a match for that. Like, this is just 20,000.
Right.
What would be the quickest, let's say, you know, said institution wanted to start planning, when would be the quickest that they can receive those monies to start their process?
Yeah, so we have a proposed timeline.
Funny you should ask.
Thank you. Your fee is in the mail.
Perfect.
So this is the way that we'd anticipated the timeline, that we would get the RFA out quickly. And then have basically give people a couple of months to be able to submit. That's basically the same timeline that we did last year, and it seemed like it worked relatively well. Then bring together the review committee and have that reviewed, so that way we'd be able to get it back to this committee for review there at the beginning of February. That would mean that we would probably be able to get funds in people's hands by early spring, probably by early March or something like that. So, I mean, it's a tight deadline,
Yes.
it's a deadline, but
It also seems to me that if people have interest in doing this, you don't have to wait till January 19th to start working. I mean, you
That's
should
right.
be talking tomorrow in terms of bringing people together.
That's right. And this is the same timeline that you all used, and you had students actually on campus.
Yeah.
The following fall, so, yeah. So, so what I'm hearing is the idea then of having continuing to have the $80,000, this option of $80,000 with the match, just create a new program across a 2-year process, but you want to sort of,
I think this is more of a 1-year process. We were thinking with LA5 as more of the existing program for the 2 years to be able to plan out.
oh, I see. So the $80,000 being kind of like we have right now, where we're giving them funds, and then there's a little bit of flexibility about how it is we're saying, use the funds in the way that you need to get the program up and going. But then, so maybe we pause there, and then we can talk about the other idea.
I guess in some ways our thought process was increasing the 80 to 100, but if you add 80 and 20, you've got your 100. So there's
That's right.
planning and then, so yeah.
So I want to make sure I'm following. So if we have a new program grant, 80,000 and a match. One idea was to say, once you receive your accreditation, you are now eligible for the second draw of funding. So that's a new program that could be coming in January, February for application. Are you also saying we go back to the existing programs that were awarded? I think you said 5 were awarded.
That's right.
And then say existing programs, I assume LSU, LSUA now are in the existing program role.
Yeah.
So now we have 9 programs that were new or existing last year when we awarded, or this year, right, when we awarded, that would now be eligible for a 2nd-year draw, or automatically receive a 2nd-year draw if they had accreditation, assuming this council wants to do that. Is that right?
It would be
Just to make sure.
seven for sure, because we're not totally sure
7,
about
SUNO,
Suno and ULM.
So SUNO and ULM, subject to their accreditation, would roll into that year 2 drawdown. I'm tracking now,
And still keeping the match with the
and still keeping the match.
existing programs.
Got it.
Can I say something? I'm sorry. I'm just, if it's automatically awarded to the existing schools, they're gonna have to match it. So are they getting the same amount they got last year, or can they ask for more money if it's, how does that work? Because if everybody's automatically awarded their 50,000, what if they can't afford to get the matching the following year? Shouldn't they reapply asking for that money that they know that they can get matching?
So if this group decides that you're now eligible for a 2nd-year draw, then we would have to communicate to those institutions what are the rules of engagement for that, because we didn't do it when we started,
Gotcha.
right? So if we say it's 80, it's 50, it's 100, we would have to say, we have additional funds, hooray. And this is how we would like to distribute those. And in order for you to apply for the year 2, these are the things we would have to know. We would be asking you to confirm the match or the accreditation or whatever those series of things are.
So they would just get a notification as opposed to automatically getting the funds. Yeah.
Oh,
And then they
absolutely.
would apply.
We can't hand out the funds without some
Okay,
process.
okay. I just want to make sure I was hearing that right, because I was
Okay.
like, what if they can only afford to get 20,000?
Yeah.
Because they can only match 20,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And we
So-
had gone through the grants offices at the university, so it was like applying for a grant. And we have to supply a worksheet that indicates all of where the match is coming from and our request. Because last time it was up to 50,000, but we didn't have to ask for 50,000 if we weren't able to get a match for 50,000.
That's right.
So
It's up to-
I'm assuming we would do the same thing, and we would have to do it yearly to show, that we still have that match, and that's still our desire to ask for that amount of money.
So I have a question. If we would go and we'd say the 9 programs are ready, they all get their CTP. And then they, so that would be my calculations is, if we go at $75,000 each, that'd be $675,000. Then if you have the 11 who said they're interested, I want a planning grant, you got 220, so that is $895,000. And then you have the little pie to pay for that. You're right at your $1 million. That you a lot, so that would bring you back to almost just the 330. So if there's any new programs, you're right at you can't make a promise to them of a second year.
That's
So I'm thinking about the advocacy component of, and then with the new administration and legislature, I don't know what their priorities will be. So I think we're kind of in a position of, I don't know, just having a discussion about how would that look.
So we started with 50 for the 5. So I think your point is an important one. This group was, I think, designed to really support increasing the opportunities across the state, as well as supporting the existing programs. And so I think budgetarily, we would have to forecast out to say, what happens if we have 11 that said they were interested. Could be more, could be less. That's just those who said it a year ago when we surveyed. And how many of them do we anticipate could shift to a yield of a new program? And then how much money would it take for us to help them in their process versus existing programs that would get a second year draw if they applied? So all of that would have to be taken into consideration in a planning budget for us to agree on to move forward.
And possibly different timelines. If this is the timeline proposed for new programs, then maybe we have a different timeline for our existing programs to apply. So we would know how many programs are interested in receiving the planning grant so that we would earmark enough money to support them, given that they do receive their CTP.
Right.
And then.
So maybe that's to Dr. Mooney's point, if we head in this direction, of course, we have we may have some programs sitting out there that are ready to step forward, and if they are, we have the 80,000 of the batch. Other than that, really, we're creating a new train where we have to put aside $100,000 for a new program. Right? They're going to get $20,000 for the match. We anticipate that being a success. Sorry, $20,000 for the planning grant. We anticipate that being successful in their getting their CTP. And then I think we're sort of saying, well, okay, then when you are successful, you will then be very competitive, probably very likely then to be, if you're able to get the match, to get the 80,000. So that's really saying then, let's say half of the 11 say that they would like to create a new program. We're really saying, well, that's going to cost us $600,000 out of the funds that we currently have. Does that make sense? So maybe the right thing to do is in round number 1 this year, that we go like this, and then let's see how much, how many people step forward. If only a few people step forward, well, then that changes the amount of money that we need to put aside. If we get all 11, well, that's a great problem to have. Then we have to think about, well, how are we going to support it? So, yeah.
And I even think for the existing programs, for us to still be able to expand, because we are the ones that are currently doing that work.
Yeah.
I would even propose to do, instead of going up to 100, maybe putting that 20 into their new program establishment. So bringing that down to 80 as a total. They received 20 at the beginning.
60.
Oh, 20 and 60. Yeah.
Because I know as a new program, we started, y'all are gonna laugh, but we started First Independence with $20,000. That's what we started with. And it's hard to find people to work, for small amounts of money, but just every campus is different. you know, the budget of LSU, Nichols will never, that's a pie in the sky dream. Oh my God, what would we do with $1 million a year, you know, bringing in those for 48 students? You know, we're not gonna ever get there. So even for us starting out with $60,000 or $80,000, we would not have been able to come up with that match.
So maybe, so this year, these brand new programs that we would be applying for in this year one, they wouldn't have had the $20,000 grant. So maybe in this round, we allow up to 80,000, but then moving forward, as you say, maybe, you know, these recipients of the 20,000 planning grants
We get the 60.
could get 60 plus the match going moving forward. That makes sense. So what I'm hearing is, that's right. So people happy with the timeline for the round one, where we would offer planning grants leading to a CTP, and then really basically using the same framework that we did this last year in the new program establishment, and then looking when we meet back in the spring to see, well, okay, where are we? How might we position ourselves now, as you say, to support existing work, but also to support additional capacity, bearing in mind that a year from now, we will be going out with another round of $60,000 new planning grants for the people who were successful in the planning grants this year.
And then once we know this first phase,
Right.
then we could come back in the spring
Yes,
to be able to know
that's right.
what we would have for the existing programs.
Right.
Because myself, I would love it to see if we could have $100,000 that we could utilize over 2 years instead of 50,000 for one. But if we still just have 50,000 for 1 year, that's great.
We understand.
And then by
Yeah.
that time, we'll be advocating again.
I was about to say, we'll be in another legislative session, so we'll know
We'll know a little bit more
Hopefully,
when the wind is
if we
blowing.
get $1 million or 2 million more, right?
Yeah.
Because we really need recurring money to be able to continue advancing this work.
I have one question. In the learning that I'm kind of fatigued. I've been traveling for the last 2 weeks. I'm trying to get my thought bearing going. Let me help me understand the threshold for the planning grant. When I see a planning grant, 2 things away when I wrote grants. That's a planning grant you get for developing your CPT, or that's a planning grant we give you to start doing that work. Which one are we saying?
I think what I'm hearing everyone say is, we want to know how, when we give you $20,000, how are you going to use that to get your CTP? Not to think about getting your CTP, but
So
how you can get your
So that's a
CTP.
plain thing.
Right, so it's something that you're planning, right? So if you don't see that proposal, you wouldn't get that 20,000. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So there's gonna be additional money in the coffer that we need to have.
Right.
to
Trailing
think-
for the,
Right,
yeah.
Right, that's right.
So you
So
get your
person-
CCP and then you say, here it is.
Could institution apply for both of those at the same time? I mean, fully planning to. It seems to me that would be great.
Great question. So we should think through that, right? Because if you would not give them 100, we were talking about giving them 60.
Right.
So we have to say you can or cannot upfront before they apply. And if you do, it's 80 total versus 100 total. And I think it's up to this group to say whether or not you would allow that.
Or do we want to have plan A.5, where an institution could say, okay, look, we're not in the position right now to plan for the 80, but we absolutely, you know, we're sort of we got a few more ducks in a row, and so this is how it is that we'll take 20 right now, but we also want to let you know that this is what we're gonna do once we get our CTP, and so they would be then in a position to effectively apply for year 2
To
funding
me, with that,
immediately.
with that timeline that's set up, we're talking 18 months. and
That's what you
that's what I'm
said.
saying, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You're not gonna, 24, 25, we're not going to be starting unless there is the access to those.
Right.
And if institutions, and if we wouldn't have done it by now, I mean, all of this has been discussed, we've been listening to it and hopefully thinking about it. So it seems to me that one could get both of those. And then there's also it seems like it's gonna take 8 months, less than that possibly, for a person to make that application, maybe get some changes that need to be made. So that if you want to start next fall, you do need those funds.
So we would be saying that. Right. That you don't get the balance of the 80 until you have the CTP.
But they're there
And
for
from the last applications, if you have your CTP, the application to request the funds, you're gonna get that information primarily from your CTP application. So it should not take very long just to go to your grants department, make sure that that worksheet is filled out and submitted.
Okay, so I want to make sure I'm following Dr. Mooney's point. So if I'm an institution and I have very few ducks in a row, but a lot of interest, I can apply for a 1-year, $20,000 planning grant. That's all I need. I just need to work across my campus. I need to get my CTP. I'm ready to go. If I'm in one of the 11 who's been thinking about it and gathering information, and I want my CTP and the ability to start, then I want to apply for a combined grant and articulate upfront that I'm applying for a combined grant. And I know that I have to have the CTP to get the trailing 60,000, but there is an option for me to get a combined grant so that I'm ready to go. Is that what this?
And can I just add on to that? I think that's what I understand it. And so, but if you are that smaller, you just want to get the 20,000 for, it would be fiscal year 25, right? You get but then the following year, then they would be eligible for the 80,000 as a new program.
The 60, because we're saying 80 max,
80 would be 60.
80 max. Which means we'd have to budget.
So
for
they
that.
only can get 80,
Right, is what
They
they're
would
saying.
receive 20
whether
during
it
the
takes them
plan.
1 year or it takes them
Yes.
2 years. They only can get that.
And
Okay,
the difference of that one is you don't have to have any matching funds this year.
right.
The 20 doesn't
For the time.
So they're just the 20.
Okay.
Right,
And
So
then-
what I'm, from a functional perspective, then what I would be here, so if you're applying for the 80, then Board of Regents would end up writing 2 checks. You get 20 upfront
To
to
get
get
your
your CTP,
CTP.
and then when you get your
Before
CTP, then you'd have the ability to draw down the other 60.
Right.
if you apply for
If
the
you apply for
double,
the double.
and we held that waiting to see if you got your CTP.
Exactly.
If you said up front, I only need 20 for this year, that's all I'm asking for. You do the skinny application and
Yeah.
yes or no on that, right?
That's right.
I assume that's what the group is thinking. I'm just trying to make sure I'm following
Sure.
Dr. Mooney's.
Well, and just thinking out loud again, given our experience of, being fortunate with the funds and Blue Cross Blue Shield's foundation's monies, or else we wouldn't be operating. People can learn from us to be able to make application for the program to legislature, and because you're gonna have to wait for another session
Yeah.
before, which could be another, deadline killer, so to speak. So communicating all of that to allow persons
Mhm.
in the best way possible to be able to make an application for program fee approval in an appropriate legislative session as quickly as one can.
When did you put your CTP application in, and when did you get it?
It was August received, I believe it was March, April submitted. Because we had, the template was there for us to be able to utilize, and we had, experience with respect to Southeastern and Nichols to be able to support us. Not that knowledge helped tremendously.
So somebody could
Yes,
apply for let's say they apply for the second level grant. They could follow a similar structure to yours and still be able to either get their CTP in hand in time for the fall or start in the spring.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So Dr. Mooney, to your legislative program fee approval, I think what we'll do separately is have a conversation with existing and new programs about what they're charging. And then I would imagine we would go in globo to the legislature and say, these are specialized programs, and if there is a need for a tuition and fee approval on behalf of Regents and this council, we're asking for that for all programs.
Gotcha.
All institutions in the future who are planning, et cetera, to have the authority to do that.
That's- Yes, that's.
Right, that's what I think we would do,
Yeah.
as opposed to one about
Yeah,
one.
absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Just do that for
Then
all
you don't have
higher,
that lag.
right, do that for all of higher ed, and then
implement.
those of you who are doing this
Absolutely.
could testify about the program, parents, et cetera, and they would understand.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do, but I wanna make sure I get my arms around,
That's,
my brain around exactly what the issues are and how others have done it. So we'll do the research on that.
So with this timeline, we would still be able to, as existing programs, be able to, after we know what funds are gonna be allocated, to come back in the spring to write proposals for funds for next fall.
Yeah, I mean, just like we did this year, but so this year we were able to fit in 2 rounds of funding between, so, yeah, we can have that discussion.
We know what we have in hand and we can talk about our budget, right? And what our advocacy is looking like. So we know more. Because you would have to, I think the $20,000 planning grants, you would want to have the 60,000 ready to go for them to draw. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, I think we did two rounds, right?
We did.
2 rounds?
We did.
Yeah.
Largely, last time, the 2 rounds were more from an advocacy perspective, just because of what we heard, where there were some programs that hadn't, I mean, even though we tried to get word out, they still didn't hear about it and such and such. This time around, I think everybody, it's not so much people don't know, but we're positioning ourselves in a different way from a budgetary perspective.
And if I could just say something about the tuition and fees, just as I think as an advocate, I know, was a member of the DD Council and as a parent utilizing these programs is that accessibility is important, like access funding wise. So like, I believe that advocates believe that all students should have access to these programs if they want it, if their, families are supportive of it. And so, and that means that these programs could be funded. Like my son at UAL, it's fully funded through LRS. His tuition and fees are fully funded through that. There might be some students that qualify for Pell and that type of thing. So there isn't any program in the state that a student, they have to come from a family of means to be able to access that. So like, for instance, that Pell grants, even if they qualify for Pell, even if they qualify for LRS, that would be insufficient funding for them to be able to participate. So if that makes sense. So I think there has to be conversations with LRS, like they have some pretty strict rules at LRS from the federal level of like, is this the program, correct, Courtney, that there's no other program that can meet that need, and that's an appropriate goal, employment goal for those students. So like, I think those discussions need to be had, that there's no exclusion of kids just because they aren't part of families that have the means to be able to participate.
To your point, just another resource. I mean, we're in the process of attempting to, I can't say we've been successful with respect to trying to raise scholarship funds. All students would have access to scholarships, and students with developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities. We can raise funds at LSU and other institutions, so that can be a gap provider as well. Then it's another way to be more inclusive. And so, yeah, it's on us to be able to reach out and be able to find donors to fund those kind of things, but it's on our radar, and we've made efforts already.
Yeah, I already see that, just like with my son at UL, that even though, I mean, his is completely paid for through LRS, so it's not, I mean, there are some other financial components that I know that we provide resource for that other families don't have, but there is a component of those students in the program, majority of them come from parents who are college educated. And so you see the same thing within, what you see as traditional students, you see it with these students as well. So any way that we can go about not creating any more barriers and financially is Ray, I think that we can.
And we had a meeting with LRS about 3 weeks ago at, like Mary Bro calls it, Big LSU. And they came in and they wanted to see what a traditional week looks like in the community. What does it look like? And I kind of mapped out that on our website. You can see what they're doing at this time and where they're transitioning. And then they wanted to see what year 1 and year 2 look like. And then we talked about year 3 and year 4. They are definitely coming to the table with the resources and wanting to support where our students are, which also opens up that access that you were just talking about. Because I don't want to see just students from influential families who can come in and write a check. I'm a rural educator with barriers being part of the conversation that had to exist. So I want to make sure that we do know that they are at the table and willing to support those endeavors.
And are those federal dollars? LRS?
Yes.
Federal dollars. So we should ask the question about affordability and access in our applications, right? And we should gather that information from everyone. Because as we advocate, I do think your point is an important one, right? Are we creating more programs for college educated parents to send their kids to? Or are we creating programs that have opportunity for all? And we won't know that until we get our arms around how the funds, what funding is provided and how the funding is provided.
So we can add a question about affordability and how it is that you're intending.
How do you intend to, yeah.
Address it. Yeah, it's a great point.
I think another point too, because we talk about this at Nichols all the time, if this funding would not be available, how do we continue the work without the funding? So I think that's an important question also, because we don't want to be hiring staff and then all of a sudden there's no funding and we don't want to see these programs go away.
Yeah.
So how do you intend to continue with that?
Yeah, and that was part of last year's application, to say how are you intending to sustain what it is that you're now, we're enabling you to build. Well, very good. So, and we will put all of that together. We will get the RFP out, and I'm looking forward to hearing what it is that people bring forward. So, that last item is there any other business that anyone wants to raise?
On the business, but can you go back one slide? So I want to make sure we follow the process that we did last time, which was some sort of a Zoom for interested parties.
Yes.
So I think with LaPi's help, we want to make sure we do that, and then with parents, making sure we're getting the word out as well. So let's, I know it's not on the schedule, but I assume it's beneath there somewhere that we're gonna do that same process of a Zoom recorded, sent to all, whether you participated or not, so there's full transparency of information. And then that the review committee will be the same, you chairing and all the systems at the table? Okay. And we had, LaPi. We had for LaPi. We have, oh, yes, we had Bambi, not Dr. Becker.
Oh, reviewing?
Reviewing.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay,
So we wouldn't just mirror that same.
we will mirror the same.
Mirror that same.
Okay,
process.
got it.
Yeah.
So what would that date or a date range for the Zoom? Cause I'm assisting with LA Pi now.
So, well, we will get with you.
November 16th in January,
Yeah, we'd be looking.
3rd or 4th, so 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Let's start that.
I mean, I'd be sort of looking for that Zoom to be, in the latter part of November or something like that. So that's kind of what we did last year, that it was, a few days after we launched the RFP.
And that
So
would
when
be
people,
for the systems that are interested.
exactly, yeah, and just allow.
So that'll give us a little indication.
Right,
Yes, how many people tune in? Oh, that's
Right.
That's exactly right.
so yeah, November's due of some sort.
And that notification is gonna go out to the VPAAs again. Cause I know that was a question last time,
Yes.
where's that information,
Yeah, I
To be-
think this
to
time,
be
I think what we learned is that more is better. So we'll send it out to the CAOs, but we now have a contact list that we can send out to them.
That's a good point, because our CTP approval, I finally was able to get it from the Dallas office because it went to an unnamed president's email address, which I believe is
It sat there
incorrect.
for a couple
So it
weeks.
sat in the LSU system for about 3 weeks. nobody knew. I mean, we believed it was approval, but nobody could find the letters until we actually reached out to Michael Williamson, I believe is his name, and he sent it. So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay,
That was.
very good.
Okay, so that was my question, sorry.
No, that's great. Thank you. Is there any public comment? With that,
Kind of. I do.
Oh, please, thank you.
Sorry, I'm
No, no.
sorry. Kathy Dillon, I'm part of the LA Pi committee. But I had a question about the bill. It 682 in section A5. And I just want to clarify because I'm not sure exactly what this means, but it says funding shall be distributed by the Board of Regents to a public post-secondary education management board only upon the certification by the board.
Yes.
So does that mean that they can't receive any money until they have their CTP?
Until they certify that they are pursuing it
Yes.
and that they will ensure that it is done.
Is that what it states here?
Yeah, so-
Okay,
So
so
that's the way we did it. Before we handed any funds to any of the institutions, we asked each of the management boards to affirm that the funds would be used for the purpose of getting the CTP.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not going against what our legislators put in here and the author put in here. That's all.
Oh.
Because I don't want them to come back and go, y'all aren't following protocol. So anyway, just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. And we will do the same this time. We will, before we get to the funds, we'll have that same certification process for the management boards to certify that the funds will be used for the purpose. Yeah,
Okay, great.
absolutely. Thank you for that clarification.
And for the next meeting, can we request that we have information from the two other institutions that we don't know where they are with their CTP applications?
Yeah.
and
absolutely.
approvals?
So
We will do that.
Alan will help make sure we get Suno. And we'll help, Dr. Polly will help us make sure we get ULM.
I believe ULM will present at the next meeting. He just wasn't able to attend today because he was out of town.
And executive, so we will anticipate that we'll be able to get presentations from their three.
Yeah, because their system reps are here.
That's good.
And just to kind of reiterate for them that LA Pi is doing outreach for consulting work for new programs. So if someone needs something, they can reach out to me in the meantime, as Dr. Beckers is not available, but I am sitting in that position to assist her.
That's great.
Well, we will look to organize a meeting in February once we have our recommendations in hand.